All right, welcome to the third review of the evening, which is The Voidness, the Dar horror survival game. The Voidness is a sci-fi psychological horror game which it takes place inside the void, where it's filled with just gloom. The only way to see is by scanning the environment with your rangefinder device. That'd be the LIDAR.
LiDAR.
However, you are not alone. Don't breathe, as they are listening and watching. Right. So, let me see here. Where to start with The Voidness? Who here is familiar with the game Scanner Sombre?
Not off the top of my head.
It doesn't ring a bell.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I guess I'm the only one who's actually familiar with this game. But Scanner Sombre is really the pioneer of this kind of horror game. It's been a fair few years since I played it, but I at least remember doing the 3D scanning thing in order to progress. Like, I'm trying to remember if that was a horror game. I don't yeah. Looking at its Steam page, it's like, no, yeah, it's what I remember. It's a cave exploration game. Your job is to, you're going through a cave, but, since it's a cave, presumably fairly deep down, it's dark. So you're using a 3D scanner to basically build objects. And what this game did is, what if that, but into a, for lack of a better term, stereotypical independent horror game. That is what this is. So, it provides a unique mixture up to a point.
Oh god, this mouse
and
acceleration
that point
sucks.
Yeah, it's like, it's not like I think I switched to a controller with this one. Like, yeah, I remember playing this with a controller because the mouse controls weren't good.
Well, it's emulating a controller, that's why.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's its own bit of fuckery, isn't it?
Where'd my controller fall to? Good lord.
Yeah, it's like, you're gonna struggle a bit with this. Like, anyway, shitty controls aside, it's like, so, have you played Amnesia? Have you played Outlast? Have you played, like, any independent horror game released in the last 15 years? Then you've played the framework of this game. Because it operates like all of those other horror games. You know the drill. You are a helpless survivor of a cataclysm, or something of that order. You are a helpless person. Like, I'm trying to remember her name. Because you're not a nameless. There we go, Francesca Lee. Like, you're an actual character with an actual name, an actual voice, an actual backstory. Like, you're a scientist, not a space marine. So that means you have no combat training. The best you can do is throw very, very gamified blocks around. Honestly, it was a bit of bad design there, because they were something that felt like out of a video game, and rather than a natural part of the environment. Like, they weren't even really, like, maybe they were space crates, but they didn't feel like that. They felt like video game cubes. it's a minor point, but it's something I noticed.
Oh, this isn't
You know,
even liking my controller.
the overall point is, you're a helpless woman who all she has is a scanner and some ID tags, and has to maneuver through total blackness. But there are also hidey holes. In this case, desks.
Which
And
you need to detect.
well, not only you need to get under, but
You need to
as,
be able to get under them.
yes. I mean that's kind of how the scanning part goes. It's like you're not necessarily going to know something is there unless you scan it. Like, it actually takes a bit of time, not too long, to get to this, to get to the actual scanning part. But
Why is the sector door's power off?
anyway, um, you know, like the horror is extra abstract in this one because all you're getting is a red outline. Like that's literally your scary antagonist. Yet they still find ways to do jump scares around it. A lot of it has to do with changing the color scheme of your scanner. It's surprisingly effective. Anyway, getting back to what there's an extra layer in terms of in terms of hiding, and that is sound. Mind you, this does depend on if you have a microphone. Like,
Because it's one of those games that does the, oh hey, we try to make you audibly react, and then if you do, that messes up your stealth in the game.
yeah, it's one. Well, it's like if you have a microphone plugged in, it will presumably hear your breathing. I guess
do
my
have it
microphone was
I'm not
disabled.
trying to be dismissive of it. That is a cool mechanic. It's just one that's been done a decent amount of times by now.
right. And the implementation here is so rote, I barely noticed it. Mainly because I think my microphone was too far away from my mouth at the time, because it wasn't detecting the breathing. So,
And it looks like there is a way to turn it off in the options.
right.
For
I mean,
people like
presumably,
us who are streamers.
yeah. Presumably, also, if you don't have a microphone plugged in, you're not going to get that functionality. But like that's about it in terms of the core gameplay or the core horror mechanics, such as they are. Outside of, there are the other thing you have to be aware of is broken glass. It's like you step on broken glass, it makes a noise. If you throw a cube, it makes a noise. Like there's a whole bunch of noise warnings, and honestly, it's a lot less in execution than what all the prompts hype up. Like,
So Petty's been playing for the length of this review so far. Still haven't gotten to the LiDAR portion.
well, yeah, it's that's because he's actually exploring. Like,
I
know.
I'm just commenting on it. I was waiting until that to comment on the fact that I think LiDAR is a really cool horror aesthetic.
Yeah.
Right, and
because it lets you see things, but it lets you see things as a moment in time.
Yes.
So if anything is moving, You know where it was, but you don't know where it is now. And
And once again,
you need to figure out the environment and stuff.
yeah, that is that is the innovative part of this game. You know, that's what quite frankly saves it from being a complete by the numbers bore fest. The fact that you are doing this in complete darkness, outside of the prologue section here, which is really getting you trained on everything.
I guess something to mention if you have a irrational fear of, dark places, this is not your game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, depending on how it renders it, sometimes that can be somewhat graphically intensive to remember to have a certain number of points on the map at a time.
Right.
Yeah. And I just want to say, when you can see the whole setup here, the desk, hiding under the desk, it looks really lame. Like, there's a reason why, cupboards, lockers, that kind of thing are typically used because, that kind of hides you. Now,
Right.
I understand why they went with desks because that's an item that has been used before, at least nothing that I can remember. And it's also, you're in the dark. It doesn't matter that, you've got this big hole exposing you, if you play your cards right. Oh, yeah. You got to grab the block and break the glass.
I already did.
I'm just mentioning that for those who might have missed it. And like they also play with the lock and keys. In this case, it's valve and metal rod in order to progress. Like looking for it here. Store. And yeah. Like I said, I think I can boil this down to standard indie horror game that's elevated by its main gimmick, even if it takes a bit of time to get to it.
Professor Brian?
Not too much in real terms, but clearly longer than what this review is going to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also there is some weird jankiness where, like, sometimes the game will try and play during that little intro section thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another thing. This game was made by by a solo dev, and it seems not just in the jank controls, but the graphics when you can actually see them. This game. Now, there's no kind way to say this, so I'll just say it. It looks fucking ugly. Like this game looks like a badly modeled PlayStation 3 game. Thankfully, it doesn't matter too much because you're spending most of the time in the dark, and everything becomes a lot more abstract and such.
Mm-hmm.
So the other sticking point here is the price. This game is going to clock in at $12. I think that's a little much for what's on display here. Like, maybe an even 10.
I mean, if they tighten some of the fit and finish up, I could see 12.
Yeah, I think that's the main problem here. It's just kind of rough in a bad way.
Yeah. Like, there's still, like some updates and stuff to, like, tighten some of these issues up. It could help a lot. This isn't like something so broken it just needs to, go away. It's an interesting concept that just literally just needs a little bit of tightening up.
Right. But otherwise, yeah. Stick with it. Get past the intro here, which is, quite honestly, it does what it needs to do. Introduce you to the concepts and the controls like a good tutorial should.
Mm.
So, but like I said, it doesn't put the best face forward aesthetically.
Mm-hmm.
And, as much atmosphere as it's potentially setting up, nothing happens until you open the valve door. Then you will very much know something is happening. Yeah. Anyway, so any other questions, comments, or concerns over the Voidness?
Not really.
Yeah, I think I said the main thing I had to say.
All right. So, yeah, that'll about do it for this game. Be sure to tune in after the break, as Petty Fan will be reviewing Rat Shaker.